I'm here today at the Department of Social Services talking with Chastity McMillan and Amber Tiller. Welcome to our show.
Hi, thanks for having us, Amy.
You know, a lot of times in social services there are a lot of services behind the scenes that people don't always see, so it's great that we have the opportunity to talk to you all about what some of those things are. I know, Chastity, you're going to talk a little bit about Child Protective Services and tell us how a family comes into that ongoing unit.
Sure. So when the department receives a valid child abuse or neglect report, the CPS investigation unit has approximately 45 days to work with the child and family. At the end of that 45-day period, if the family requests or still need further services, or if the court has become involved, it comes to the CPS ongoing unit.
Okay. And then what can a person expect working with that unit?
Family engagement is very critical. We want families to feel valued and respected, and that they have something to share that's really valuable to our planning. So within the first 30 days, we sit down with the family to develop a service plan, and that is simply a process of matching their needs and objectives with services that can meet those needs. So what we do is we identify, for example, if a parent needs to take a parenting class, or if they need to do substance abuse treatment, or if a child in the home needs outpatient therapy or in-home therapy. We identify that as an objective, and we identify a provider who can help them meet those goals. We also set target dates to review the plan, and some services are court-ordered, so that makes things more simple sometimes. Parents can refuse services. However, then at that point, the agency would need to make a decision if court involvement would be necessary to order those services. And other factors go into that decision, such as the age of the child, the risk factors, etc. And that's something that we usually talk about with our agency attorney first.
Sure.
We do have access for funding. We never want money to be the reason why a person can't get the help that they need, so we can access all kinds of services. We try to get very creative with that. We have several funding sources that we can pull from. And at the end of the day, we just want families to feel like that they have a buy-in and that their progress is dependent on the success of their case and their family.
And then, Amber, talk a little bit, what does it look like if children have to come into the foster care program? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So the cool thing about CPS and being able to continue that ongoing is that the children are not coming into foster care at that point. So while the state and our teams are helping them out, they're able to stay within their families, and that is our main goal over and over. So when children do have to come into foster care, it's either predominantly because the risk factors have gotten too high and it's just not safe for them to be in the home. Even if our teams are still working with them and we find that it's unsafe, then we end up with a child coming into care, and at that point they are placed usually with one of our local foster homes or with a therapeutic foster home, depending on the amount of their needs. And by that point, we've usually exhausted things that CPS has worked with, such as their family and their relatives and people that they've already tried to place with. So at this point, they are placed with one of our local homes who they're not generally going to know. And the children can come into foster care for a varying amount of reasons based off of abuse, neglect, sometimes substance exposure, depending on the age and the risk factor. Again, there's a million things that could bring a child into care, but that's why there's the program for prevention, trying to keep these kids, out of foster care.
Right. And what is foster care prevention? I know that's a program you work closely with too.
Yes, ma'am. Foster care prevention is case management for a child or children who are at risk of entering foster care. And a large population that we see in foster care prevention are teenagers who might have substance use issues or might have truancy issues or might be before the court for legal charges. And a lot of the referrals that we receive from prevention are from the court. They are court ordered.
Okay, so that's how the family comes to work with you all on that.
Yes.
On the prevention.
And families can also self-refer for prevention. Another referral source that we see is the FAPT, the Family Assessment Planning Team.
Okay. And then talk about another component. There's so many different components to all of this. The respite care.
Sure. So with Chastity's team, sometimes our local foster families can actually help children who are not currently in foster care. If they're approved with us, they can actually work with some of the families that Chastity works with. So say if you have a family member who's been taking care of multiple children and has been working with Chastity and is really trying to do their best, but they are very overwhelmed. There's multiple little kids running around, maybe an older kid running around, then we've got this overwhelmed family member that we're trying to keep these kids in the home. They know this family, they love this family. And so sometimes we can get our local homes involved, and they're able to provide a week or a weekend just for this person to have a little bit of extra time, kind of as a support, really strengthening not just that family but our community as a whole, and keeping those children in a safe place that they feel loved and cared for and that they feel known.
And what are some of the goals of foster care prevention?
The primary goal, just like with CPS ongoing, is to prevent removal and to maintain the child safely in the home.
Right.
The case management with prevention looks very similar to the ongoing process. We meet with the family and develop that service plan jointly, and we have monthly home visits, so it looks very similar.
And what's the length of time you might work through that process?
Typically for prevention, it's about 3 to 6 months, but again, that varies, and each family is unique and depends on the success of the child and family.
Sure. And what's the length of time someone might be in foster care?
So I believe the state mandated length of time is supposed to be between 12 to 15 months.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sometimes it could be anywhere from, a couple of days to a couple of months to 2 years or more, depending on the child's situation and depending on just what that looks like for them. But most of the time we try to keep it between that 12 and 15 month period.
Sure. One thing I noticed when we talk to you all here, you all truly care about the families and the children and working so hard here locally to help support them all. So that's a wonderful thing. So thank you for that. And if people want to find out more information about these programs or others, what's the best way they can do that?
They can visit the state's website or reach out to any supervisor here locally and get that information.
Find out more information.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you both for talking about this and trying to help educate the community better about what you all do here. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.